It's my joy and privilege to introduce our commencement speaker this morning. Walter Hansen has become a dear friend. He has served for 17 years on our board of trustees. He's a wonderful scholar, thinker, truly a public intellectual. Days that begin with a message from Walter always have a poignant quote, a culture-shaping article, or an interesting and wise observation of something Walter has been thinking about. He has opened my eyes to the way in which theology and philosophy intersect with art, and how we truly come to celebrate the purposes of God when we see truth, goodness, and beauty in all its manifestations. One of my favorite lines from Plato is where he's writing about the role of beauty, and he says, beauty is the only spiritual essence we love instinctively by our nature. And he says we should use it as an avenue to awaken to our greatest spiritual longings and our deepest ethical commitments. When I'm with Walter, either face-to-face or online, he reminds me of my deepest held spiritual longings and of my deepest commitments that I've made to live a life trying to embody the love, life, and teachings of Jesus. We're privileged to have Walter in his final act as a board member be our commencement speaker. Walter, thank you for your service to Westmont. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Gail. You are a dear brother, and you inspire me to live for Christ. Well, dear graduates, congratulations. I loved walking down from Kerwood Hall with you, led by bagpipes and all of you with your ribbons and leis, and you couldn't help smiling coming through all of us clapping for you. We are truly proud of you and of your accomplishment. And I don't know what dance step to do with bagpipes, but I was trying to do one because I feel like it's a smooth processional dance coming down here to this field. A dance into your big future, your expansive future. And of course, we're all wondering, along with you, what is your future? What next steps will you take? And I'm sure you're tired of people asking you that question. Would you please stop asking that question? Because although you have plans, you know what maybe the next step will be, but not the next after that. Who knows the future? Who knows what will come next? Well, I have 3 glimpses into your future that I offer to you, and I offer them to you because I have a vantage point of having come down that hill a long time ago, and thinking back on that, it offers me a kind of framework for your future. When I first came down that pathway, I had never been on this campus. I had no idea the layout of this campus. I didn't have a campus map. I didn't have an iPhone with Google Maps. There weren't the big signs with pointers telling me where to go. And I parked in the main parking lot by the main gate, and I was trying to find my way to Reynolds Hall. I had no idea where Reynolds Hall was. I just had an appointment there. So I saw a big impressive white building, and I headed in that direction. Nice big lawn in front of it, that must be Reynolds Hall. And I came to this big white building, and I asked the student, is this Reynolds Hall? No, this is Kerwood Hall. Like, you know, what kind of dummy are you? And I said, well, where's Reynolds Hall? And he took me around behind Kerwood Hall and pointed that way. Well, fortunately, that way was a nice straight path for about 20 yards. And then the path just descended into a whole jumble of confusing paths. I had no idea which way to go. So I kind of veered right. I saw a white chapel in front of me. I said, that's probably not Reynolds Hall. I saw a cement block building over here. Well, maybe that's it. So I go over there and I ask a student, I say, is this Reynolds Hall? She said, no, you're going in the wrong direction. You got to turn around now and go back down the hill. So I turn around and I go back down the hill. I saw a really big building. Well, maybe Reynolds Hall is a really big building. And I said, is this Reynolds Hall? And a very athletic guy said, "No, this is Murchison Gym. Now, Reynolds Hall's way over there, and I'll take you there. I'll walk with you." That's my framework for knowing your future. So, I ask you, what was it like when you came here? Well, I found out that actually you had a lot of help because you had guides. Your first walk was bagpipes leading the way. You know, there are big signs for you, so you kind of know where to go. But did you ever get lost here? Did you ever have any confusion walking these paths? I was walking down here with Scott Lisea. Scott and Jamie are good friends, and I told him, wow, first time I walked these paths, I got so lost. And he laughed. He said, well, so did I and Jamie. We got lost. We were coming from Page Hall over to Dean Chapel, and we were trying to find our way. We got totally lost. But he said it was okay because that was the beginning of our relationship. You know, didn't mind that. So I said, sometimes it's good to get lost, you know. But of course, I'm thinking of paths in other ways too, and you've heard references to paths and journeys already this morning. So you have all these paths in your life, all kinds of experiences here. We think of you listening to teachers, writing papers, taking exams, practicing violin or whatever your instrument is, the harp, playing basketball. Congratulations to winning teams here. Yes, ooh. And so many other pathways. Talking, laughing, crying, learning with your friends. Pathways on this campus. Falling downhill, stumbling downhill. Pathways on this campus. So what has been your entire Westmont career? What's Westmont all about? What's the mission of Westmont? Well, I've spent a long time writing and rewriting with faculty and other trustees the mission statement of Westmont. Versions, revisions. What is the mission statement of Westmont? And a few years ago, I picked up a book by Paul Willis, professor of English here. I don't know, I was looking for him, but I don't see him over there. There he is, right there. Thank you, Paul. Yeah. So I owe him this quote from his book, To Build the Trail. At Westmont College, faculty do research with their students and offer extra tutorials for the sheer love of learning. Students and faculty believe, and here it is, that curiosity, love, and wonder always take circuitous paths toward understanding. Now, where in the world would he have thought of circuitous paths except for Westmont? Because that's about all there is here. Except for that 20 yards of straight, you know, behind Kerwood. So, just as I took circuitous paths, finally got to Reynolds Hall, you've taken many winding paths to this place here. You finally made it. Congratulations. And not just physical paths. You've climbed intellectual mountains. You've persevered through emotional ups and downs. You've explored new ways to know God. Sometimes you had to do the hard work of clearing out the underbrush of tangled misunderstandings that block the pathway to healing a good relationship. Many pathways that you've taken to get here. You've learned how to walk and fall and get back up again on paths here. So, you can launch into your future with courage because you already know how to walk on paths with many twists and turns. When you come to a jumble of confusing paths, you will gulp down your fear. You'll do a quick Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus, have mercy. You'll stand up straight and you'll say, I know how to do this. I've done this before. I've lived through fires. I've lived through debris fall. I've learned the paths of Westmont College. I'm facing a jumble of paths, and I can do this. And so that's the first glimpse into your future. You will walk with competence and confidence on circuitous paths toward understanding. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. Of course you have fear. We all do. And you just heard Kate talking about the jumble of confusing paths that all of us experience, and you will too. And that's why it's so good you had your education here at Westmont College, because that's what you had here, is circuitous paths. And look, you made it. You're here. Now we look at the second glimpse, informed by your class verse, which describes the most significant journey for the rest of your lives. By this will everyone know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Now we all agree that this is the transcendent purpose in our lives, but we immediately and constantly get caught up in our work and our leisure, our playtime, whatever you do. Your work and your sports will become captivating and consuming for you. And sometimes, as you heard in front of Kerwood, it won't just be fun. It'll be hard work, but this will become your life in many different places in many different ways. And in all kinds of ways, 291 of you, there'll be, God never makes ditto marks. You are all so unique, so different from each other. And you'll do amazing different kinds of work in your life. You'll make solid contribution to the common good of society. And you have lots of fun in your sports, your leisure time, whatever you love to do, biking, skiing, surfing, all kinds of adventures. These are good gifts from God. God gives us work. God gives us play. God gives us the pleasures of life to enjoy. And these are ways that we make and encourage friends. When friends work together, they accomplish amazing good things. One of my favorite quotes is J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote a letter in which he expressed the great value of a friend. C.S. Lewis is a very old friend and colleague of mine, and indeed I owe to his encouragement the fact that in spite of obstacles, I persevered and eventually finished The Lord of the Rings. There you go. That's the value of good friends along the way. So accomplishment in work and enjoyment and play are good means, God-given means, but to greater ends. They are the temporary frames for friends we make and keep for all eternity. Paul prays for his friends in Philippi and tells us that friendship love grows by seeking knowledge and insight. It is my prayer that your love may abound more and more with true knowledge and discernment. Given our experience at Westmont, we could paraphrase that verse this way: love grows by taking circuitous paths toward understanding. Look at how true that was for the Apostle Paul himself in his own life. He wrote this letter from a prison, a Roman prison. How in the world did he wind up there? Well, he traveled over 10,000 miles of winding, twisting paths up and down mountains to tell the world about the crucified Messiah, who is the risen Lord above all earthly powers. And it wasn't a straight journey. It wasn't an easy journey. He endured rejection by opponents and conflict with friends. And he finally wound up in prison. But no matter where Paul landed in his journey, he consistently did one thing over and over. He made friends. When we read the end of his letters, we see lists of names of Paul's friends that he met on his journeys. Priscilla and Aquila, who risked their necks, Mary, who worked very hard, Epaphroditus, a brother and fellow worker. Quote, receive him with all joy and honor, Paul says. Epaphroditus? That's a Greek name. It means dedicated to Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love, a friend of Paul's. Paul went on paths way beyond his religious, cultural, Jewish boundaries and broke down walls that excluded people on the basis of race, class, and gender. Paul was always connecting his friends with each other, recommending them to each other, and weaving a beautiful tapestry of friends. For a long time, my scholarship has attempted to understand Paul's theology. I taught Romans a number of times, and the first 15 chapters, solid theology. I didn't have enough time to go into Romans 16, but that's such a treasure house because in Romans 16, it's a long list of friends that he values. And so that's actually what I'm most inspired by Paul, is his friends, his love for friends. After all, Paul said, if I have faith to remove mountains and know all mysteries, but have not love, I am nothing. In his letter to the Philippians, Paul's language just overflows with affection. My dear, dear friends, this is the Message version. My dear, dear friends, I love you so much. I do want the very best for you. You make me feel such joy. You fill me with such pride. Don't waver. Stay on track. And that's what I treasure. Looking back now, over 51 years of roaming pathways around the world with my wife, Darlene. Chung Chi Pong and Chun Hua led our family for 7 years to enjoy the exotic ways of Singaporean culture. Sam and Abby Baguma took us into hospitals in Uganda and Kenya and down dusty paths to participate in missions of mercies in the slums of Kampala and Nairobi. Samuel and Nada Petrowski opened doors for us to teach university students in Serbia. Our paths crossed through cultural, ethnic, and religious barriers to form friendships with beautiful people. We love them and are greatly blessed by their love. That's what life is all about. Martin Buber says, all journeys have secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware. Some of the destinations in our family journey have been very painful. Broken relationships, failure, suffering, and death. In those difficult places, friends stayed close to us and carried us through the darkness. One of the most delightful, surprising destinations in our lives is Westmont College. We were unaware that we would be invited to serve here in this beautiful community. And I'm totally surprised and grateful to be standing here speaking to you right now. I sometimes say, God has good jokes for you, you know. Here's one, here I am. Surprising destination. And we are so thankful for the friends through these years that we love and who have loved us so generously. I said at a board dinner, I first joined the board. I thought because at Westmont everybody has so much fun, sure, why not join the board? It'd be so much fun to be on the board. Didn't realize it'd be so much work. But it's in that work that I've been given the gift of these friendships. I could talk through these trustees and Gail Beebe and Mark Sargent, so many others. That's the great value of surprise destinations. Now, wherever your journey takes you, every one of you has destinations which, of course, you are unaware of. Some destinations for you will be painful. Others will be delightful. All your destinations will be opportunities to find and be found by the love of friends. Just as students guided me on unfamiliar paths here at Westmont, you and your friends will care for each other on all the paths and all the places of which you are now unaware. You're going into a world tragically polarized into factions fighting each other. How will you respond to hate speech and hate crimes? You know very well that fighting hate with hate destroys and kills. By the power of the Holy Spirit, you can show that love is stronger than hate. You can speak life-giving words of love and do mercy-filled works of love. You can be faithful friends in agreement and disagreement, in peace and in conflict. The healing of our society will come by loyal, forgiving friendship, love. There's so many who are caught in the chaos of our world, facing a jumble of confusing paths, and they need you. They need somebody to come alongside of them. So moved with the work that Kate is doing for people who are suffering from the trauma of life, and she's coming alongside of them. That's your call. Jesus said, "Love one another as I have loved you." Our love flows out of God's self-giving love. God's love found us. God's love holds us. As Tolkien reminds us, not all those who wander are lost. We are not ever really lost as long as Jesus is with us. In the darkest night, this is my experience, Jesus, our faithful friend and dearest brother, leads us on paths through valleys of shadows toward the light of a new creation. Well, I told you I'd offer 3 glimpses into your future and try to use my own memory of my own confusion coming down here on circuitous paths. And so my first glimpse into your future, I see you walking with confidence on circuitous paths into the future. And my second glimpse of your future is that I see you and I see what you'll be doing on those paths. You will point your friends to good paths. You will warn your friends, "You're going in the wrong direction, turn around." And you will walk with your friends all the way to their destinations. The eyes of my imagination have a glimpse of a day after heaven comes to earth, and I'm walking with a new friend. And I say, "And how did you get here?" And they say, "It's an amazing story. I was so lost. And a Westmont grad came alongside with me and walked with me. And that's why I'm here." And there's a third glimpse into your future. Actually, it's my prayer for your future. Wherever your paths take you, may you always choose to follow the one who calls us to love one another and not hate. May you always follow the one who calls us to embrace one another and not exclude. May you always follow the one who invites us to come into the party, and then you will dance and not sit it out. Now it's time to get your diploma and dance.